Hey everyone, welcome back to the lab. In this video, we're going to be talking about 3 ways vertical monitors boost focus and productivity for software engineers. So I've experimented with many methods to make my coding workflows more productive throughout my career as a software engineer. Some of these work, but most of them don't. But one strategy has worked so well that I've stuck with it for the last 5 years. A vertical monitor. In this post, I'll share some reasons why I find vertical monitors so valuable and why I think it's the optimal setup for writing code. How I use a vertical monitor. So here's basically my setup. So on the left or left center, I have my vertical monitor, and mostly I use this for writing. So writing code, writing documents, writing my posts. Like the vertical monitor is for writing. And then on the right center side, we've got my horizontal screen, and this is where I'm doing most of like my reading, watching videos and stuff, because that's how a lot of like applications are set up basically to be on horizontal screens. And this has basically been my setup for the past like 5 years. And I've found it to be pretty helpful. All right, so now let's jump into some reasons why I found this so helpful. So the first is that it leads to more focus and less distractions. So the biggest challenge for software engineers is focus. Focus time for deep work, focusing on the highest priority thing, not getting distracted by ineffective meetings, Slack messages, or the latest urgent but not important bug. Coding is deep work. Before you can build something, you must load the context in which you'll be building. Each distraction risks pulling you out of this context, thus requiring another reload before making progress. We call this a context switch. Now, a vertical monitor can't block these from happening. They're a fact of life in most work environments. But it can serve as a useful technique for reducing their prevalence. I think of this kind of like a focus mode in a text editor. It removes all of the extra visual clutter so you can focus on the thing that matters, the words. This focus mode doesn't actually remove the distractions, but it hides them such that there's less chance of it interrupting you. And hopefully this focus mode thing is like well known, but you can do this in like Google Docs, you can do this in Notion, you can do this in WordPress. I think you can do it in VS Code as well if you like remove all the windows, and basically it's just removing like all the sidebars, all the other options, so that it's just you and the text. And a lot of people find this really helpful for focusing. But it goes a little bit further than that. So vertical monitors are not very good at split screens, and they're not very good at consuming videos. This is actually a feature and not a bug, as those things are almost always distractions. And I see this a lot of time with software engineers. It's like, some people like love watching YouTube on the side, and so they'll split their screen, and I split my screen as well for my reading side, but then they've got like a YouTube video up here. And it's like pretty obvious that if you've got the YouTube video up there, like you're not fully focused on the thing. And I think horizontal monitors make it easier to split, and so you feel like it's fine. It's like your picture in picture. It's like built for this, but it's actually distracting you. And even I've seen it where even if you're just in a text editor and you split the code like that, I think that's also often more distracting than helpful, as opposed to just having the code here and then having your reference out of your primary focus. But that's just my experience. So by choosing a vertical monitor, you're choosing a permanent focus mode for one of your screens. And since focus is often our most impactful bottleneck, this is a useful optimization. The next reason is that text is a vertical format. So text is a vertical native format. To prove this, just look at how text is presented in books, websites, and phones. It's vertical. In fact, we read text better when it's width constrained because it's easier for our eyes to scan. And obviously we can see this, right? Like this is vertical, and why do we have these big margins here? It's because actually it's easier to read that way. Coding is a text-based discipline. Most of what we do as software engineers is writing the code, writing design docs, writing messages, etc. So it should come as no surprise that using a vertical screen for a vertical native format is good, actually. It allows you to see more of your code at once, which allows you to keep more relevant info in context, further preventing context switches. Vertical formats are better for reading and writing text. Since code is a text-based discipline, it makes sense that vertical screens help reading and writing. Better for ergonomics. Many software engineers spend most of their day sitting at their desks. I certainly do. But human bodies aren't really built to do that, which is why so many people end up with repeated use pains. Like the little carpal tunnel things, you got pains in your wrist, you got pains in your shoulders, you're like, got the hunchback, lots of pains. This has led to the rise of the ergonomics industry to try and solve for these pains in the forms of special keyboards, mice, and recommended desk configurations. For the most part, these work by reducing common motions that most frequently lead to issues. And so for example, ergonomic keyboards basically is trying to position your hands, wrists, elbows, and shoulders so that you're moving and stressing less in the ways that like hurt your body over time. Ergonomic mice are the same thing. It tries to protect your wrist and your elbows so that you have less torsion. A lot of mice are kind of like vertical like this. Some of them are like this. Some of them you don't even have a hand rest because that hurts your hand sometimes. And then finally we've got like, ergonomic desks and chairs, which are really just about positioning you at angles that supports your body better and so that you're not all hunched up. You don't have like overly amounts of pressure on any one part of your body. And so we know that it's useful to have multiple monitors as a software engineer. It allows you to keep more things on screen at once, which can help to keep more relevant information and context at the same time, which again is going to preventing that context switching. But the problem with this, and how like most people have their vertical monitors like horizontal next to each other, is that it forces you into these bad ergonomics, which we obviously know are a huge problem and do so many things to prevent. And so if we think of like a typical 27-inch monitor laid out side by side, so we've got two monitors like this. This is actually so wide, if you're like sitting at a normal desk, that it's outside of your field of view. So now in order to go from one side of your horizontal monitor on the right to the other side on the left, you actually have to move your neck like this. And this neck craning is a very common source of long-term neck and back pain over years of repeated use. And as a related thing, this is also why we recommend that your monitor, the top of your monitor is basically at eye level so that you're not moving your neck like this. And so it's the same idea, up and down, but also left and right like this. Now, a vertical monitor provides a nice middle ground. You still get your extra monitor so you can still keep more things in context, but it's not so wide that you must crane your neck to see because it fits inside your horizontal field of view. So you don't have to move your neck so much, you can actually just use your eyes. This means less neck and back problems long term, especially if you're doing what I do and you're like, sitting at your desk for 8 to 10 hours a day. Now, the practice of ergonomics is all about reducing issues from repeated actions, and a vertical monitor actually prevents a whole class of neck and back issues long term. I love my vertical monitor setup. It allows me to focus better with less distractions, is excellent for writing text, and has probably saved me a ton of pain over the years. I don't always get to use it. If I'm using a hot desk, I don't have my own desk. Some monitors don't even turn vertical. Maybe you just don't get an extra monitor because you're like traveling or something. But when I can, it's always worth the extra configuration effort. If you like this post, you might also like what's in my backpack to see what other kind of like gadgets and things I use on the road. 3 tips to be an effective software engineer with less work and more fun. These are kind of like tips that I give to all engineers, junior, mid-level, that I think helps people throughout their career. And you might also be interested in my journey from software engineer to entrepreneur and back again, kind of how I decided that being a founder wasn't for me and I actually like software engineering. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.